FloWrestling is the biggest wrestling media company on the entire planet, and they stream over 10,000 events live every single year. But is it still worth the price? In this video, I'm going to tell you what you do and don't get from FloWrestling, as well as give you my honest opinion on whether their service is still worth it. FloWrestling is a website and app that's home to wrestling coverage year-round. I'm talking rankings, live events, all sorts of news coverage, and Flo has been around for the better part of 15 years and has seen many changes over the years. In fact, back whenever I was in like middle school, high school age, I remember when users could actually upload their own videos to FloWrestling, and I'm actually on the site at a Penn State wrestling camp from back in the day. But now FloWrestling has changed a lot since then and is a major wrestling media company that streams all sorts of events. So let's get into what you do and don't get. But before I talk about that, I do have to say that I'm not an employee of FloWrestling, but if you do decide to sign up for the service, you can click the link down in the description, and that'll actually help to support this channel monetarily. Now, what do you and don't you get from FloWrestling? First of all, the great thing that you're going to get are rankings galore, from high school to college to international level, all sorts of rankings. Now, Flo used to employ Willie Saylor, who is seen as the premier high school ranker from across the entire country. And although he's no longer with the company, Flo still has fantastic rankers, and I still like to see the differences between Flo's rankings, match counts rankings, intermatch rankings, all sorts of different rankings, and see what each media company, what each site says that a guy is or isn't ranked. The next thing, and this is big because like I said, FloWrestling has 10,000 live events every single year. And you're going to get events from high school to college to international. The international events are great. You're going to get events like the World Team Trials, like the World Championships, Final X. In college, there are select dual meets that you're able to get. Although Flo used to be a lot bigger in the college scene, they actually used to have Big Ten wrestling on FloWrestling. They no longer have that. So like that's one of the things that you're not going to get is if you're looking for the big Iowa versus Penn State duel, that's no longer on FloWrestling. You're not going to be able to watch it on there. Or Iowa versus Oklahoma State. Now, things are changing all the time, and they may be able to get certain licenses. They may not be able to get certain licenses, but just be aware of that. If you're a big high school wrestling fan, you're going to be able to watch Powerade, Super 32, and Pennsylvania wrestlers or fans can watch the PIAA Wrestling Championships, which is fantastic to be able to watch live on FloWrestling. Now, with this next thing, there's a lot of controversy about it, and I don't really understand why, but FloArena, where you can watch brackets and look into detail at brackets for big wrestling events like the NCAA championships. I personally like this because you can see how guys are doing individually, how certain teams are doing. You can go match by match to see who's coming up to wrestle soon, who has already wrestled, look at scores, and perhaps one of the biggest differentiators right now are FloFilms. Flo has put out some fantastic documentaries dating back from like 2010 all the way up until now. They're putting out new documentaries every single year. These are called FloFilms, and some of my favorite are We Are Penn State, the last decade of Penn State wrestling, Metcalf, which takes a look at Brent Metcalf's life, the Kyle Digg versus Jordan Burroughs. You got to see an inside look at that bad blood before the Olympic team trials and the Kerry Colat story. I think the coolest part about the FloFilms are you get to see an inside look at all of these guys, their training, what they were thinking about during certain matches, what held them back at certain times. This to me is one of the biggest differentiators for FloWrestling. Now, if you're a wrestler or a coach looking to get better technique, that's one of the other cool things that Flo does is with their in-house guy, Mike Mal. He actually does like analytical breakdowns of like how Spencer Lee does his tilt with his Behind the Dirt series and looks at all that. So that's super cool if you're still a wrestler, not a fan necessarily, but still a wrestler looking to get better technique. And then the last thing you're going to get is exclusive content and coverage about upcoming events, what's going on in the world of wrestling. And I think this is a great thing that they do also with their podcast with FloWrestling Radio Live with Christian Piles and Ben Askren and the whole FloWrestling bunch. Naturally, one of the next questions is how much does FloWrestling cost, and can you actually get a free trial of the service? Now, there is no free trial of the service, but there is actually free content on the site. There are free articles, free videos, even some free FloFilms are already available on the site. If you go onto the site, you can see what you have to pay for and what's free. It's marked off by pro in the corner of the content, so you can kind of check out what you want for free. Now, as far as the cost, it costs $150 per year. They advertise it as $12.50 a month, but you have to pay up front. That's one of the upsetting parts about FloWrestling. That's one of the things that they've just gotten so much flack for it over the year, but they're saying that it's year-round coverage. You're going to get not just college wrestling coverage, but high school wrestling coverage and international freestyle events over the summer as well. So you're going to get events throughout the whole year. So they try to make it as much worth your money as you can. So that's the next question. Is it still worth it? I think it depends on the type of wrestling content that you're looking for. If you're huge into the international and freestyle scene, you want to see Kyle Dake and Jordan Burroughs and David Taylor taking on everybody internationally, or even domestic freestyle wrestling, then FloWrestling, it's like a no-brainer for you. This is the service that you're going to want to subscribe to because of all the events out there. If you're a casual wrestling fan and you're just looking for college events or just want to watch the Penn State and Iowa duels and don't really care about a lot of the others, then FloWrestling may not be worth it for you. If you're a coach or a wrestler looking for technical breakdowns, this may be something worth your while. If you're looking for documentaries, this may actually be more worth it to you. I think that's one of, like I said, the differentiating facts about FloWrestling are their documentaries. So it depends on the type of wrestling fan that you are. In my opinion, FloWrestling used to be for just the casual fan, but now it's more for the die-hard wrestling fan who wants to know every little detail about what's going on in the world of wrestling. From college wrestling news, but mostly the international stuff. I think that's where FloWrestling is geared more towards the rankings. If you're a diehard wrestling fan, then yes, I think that FloWrestling is worth it for you. Again, if you're interested in signing up for the service, I have a link for it down in the description below that'll help support this channel. And I'm interested to know, did you sign up for FloWrestling, or is it still worth it to you right now?